This director has some of the biggest hits ever, but also some of the big misses I have seen in cinemas. This sounds like Ridley Scott. Hello everyone, welcome back to another director's movie ranking by J. Mayer. And seeing that Napoleon recently was released in cinemas, the newest film by Ridley Scott, it sounded like the perfect time to talk about the filmography of Ridley Scott. And normally in these kind of videos I talk about the entire filmography of one specific director and rank all of his movies from my least favorite to my favorite. But this time I'm gonna talk about Ridley Scott. And Ridley Scott, in my opinion, is certainly a legendary director, because this director is already directing movies since the 70s and he's still doing it till this day. And he made 28 movies. And for me, 28 movies to rank from my least favorite to my favorite is a bit too much. And I do not intend to make this a long video. So I decided to talk about his 10 best movies in my personal opinion. So this still is a short video that way. And little spoiler alert, Napoleon didn't make it to this list. And to be very frank, I think if I do a complete ranking of all his films, Napoleon would probably at the bottom place. Yeah, I really didn't like that movie, it was pretty terrible. Anyhow, let's talk about his good movies. Because like I said in my intro, Ridley Scott has some of the biggest hits ever. He really made great movies. Also some really terrible movies, but also a lot of great movies. And to be honest, I'm not really the biggest Ridley Scott fan because of his big misses, but I really admire his work for the most time. And let's talk about that work. And also what's interesting is about this director is that he did all kinds of things. He did historical epics, he did some grand sci-fi spectacle movies, and then some interesting genres like a rom-com, like A Good Year. So, very interesting director to talk about. And one more thing before I go to the top 10. I have not seen all of his movies yet. There are some movies I still have to check out. For example, Black Rain, Legend, Body of Lies. So don't expect these movies in my top 10. If you are missing them in the top 10, that's because I haven't seen them yet. Anyhow, I have 3 honorable mentions that just didn't make it my top 10. And those honorable mentions are Alien Covenant. Alien Covenant is... I love this movie as an alien movie. But it's a bit flawed. There are some really dumb things in this movie. So I cannot really put it in my top 10 because of these stupid things. And especially what they did with one specific character. Didn't like it at all. But as an alien movie, I actually love it. There's some great alien stuff in it. Second honorable mention is The Duelists. And The Duelist is actually his first movie. He made this as his first movie, and actually a pretty good debut film if you ask me. It's about these 2 French soldiers during the period of Napoleon Bonaparte, but they are constantly challenging each other to a duel, and that's very interesting, very well made actually. And this is actually a better Napoleon movie than Napoleon was, because there is a clear focus and we get historical things as background information. So this is a much better focused movie than Napoleon was. And my last honorable mention before we go to the top 10 is American Gangster. Just couldn't make it. But American Gangster, this is Ridley Scott doing a gangster movie, and it's a pretty good movie. The first 2 hours, I'm talking about the director's cut, are a bit slow. I especially like that last hour. And the story about this gangster and the cop who's hunting him down, it's a very good story. So those were my honorable mentions. Let's get to the top 10. And at number 10 I have Gladiator. Maybe the most well-known movie by Ridley Scott. A big praised movie. Won an Oscar for Best Picture, so well deserved. And I really like this movie, but I do not love this movie because a lot of other people um, think more highly on this movie than I usually do. I just think it's a good movie, very entertaining movie, nice characters by Joaquin Phoenix and Russell Crowe. Especially Russell Crowe was brilliant in this movie. Uh, Interesting story and some of the great arena fights I have seen in a film, so well deserving a spot in my top 10. And number 9 we have Thelma and Louise. Different kind of movie than Gladiator, but Thelma and Louise, I really love this movie. I recently rewatched this movie and I had a great time watching this movie again. The movie started actually pretty good, but towards the end it's become great. It's become a great movie, and it's just a movie about these two friends, these two women going on a trip, and then something tragic happens and they have to flee from the crime scene, from the cops. They are hunting them down, and it's just about this journey, this trip of these two women to Oklahoma, I believe. And also interesting characters played by Brad Pitt and Michael Madsen. I love Michael Madsen. I really like him as an actor. And also Susan Sarandon and Gina Davis were perfectly in this movie. Excellent movie. At number 8 we have what I believe, in my opinion, his most underrated movie, and that's Matchstick Man from 2003. And I love Matchstick Man. Matchstick Man is such a different movie in his filmography, but I really like that he tried different things, and Matchstick Man I can call a success. It's a really character-driven movie, characters played by Nicolas Cage, Sam Rockwell, and a young Alison Lohman. And these characters really make this movie. These are very interesting characters that make an interesting movie. And then there is this plot twist at the end of the movie that gives you a whole other perspective on the film, and I love it. And Matchstick Man, if you haven't seen it, please give it a watch. You will probably have a good time with this film. And number 7 is what I believe his last greatest movie he directed, and that's The Martian from 2015. Another sci-fi movie, sci-fi spectacle, but what I think is his most realistic sci-fi film. And what I really love about The Martian is the whole survival aspect. Because The Martian is about Matt Damon, one of the astronauts, that is left behind on Mars. And everyone thinks he died, but he survived the disaster. But he has to survive on Mars all by himself, and that's very interesting. And also the whole rescue mission that they are going to do to bring him back home was also very cool. So The Martian, it's a great spectacle movie. It's one of the best movies of 2015, and I love it. It's just not higher up in the list because I do not rewatch this movie that often, and the 6 others that are remaining I do. And at number 6 we have what I actually call an historical epic, and that's Kingdom of Heaven with Orlando Bloom. I love Kingdom of Heaven. Not the theatrical cut. That cut left important things out of the movie that make the movie actually pretty mediocre. But the director's cut, the complete 3 hours and 10 minutes with everything in it, makes this movie actually great. It's one of the best, maybe the best medieval movie out there. It's a great historical movie. You actually learn about the historical period, about the medieval times. There are some great medieval battles in it. Orlando Bloom plays a very interesting character, a character you actually are rooting for during all these events in the movie. And since I saw the director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven, this is one of the best historical movies out there. do yourself a favor. If you haven't seen the director's cut, check it out. You will love Kingdom of Heaven more. So at number 5, the top 5, we have maybe a movie that's not gonna be in a lot of people's top 10 Ridley Scott movies, but it's in mine, and that's Hannibal. Yes, Hannibal. Not the most loved movie, and I agree. If you compare Hannibal with the movie before, The Silence of the Lambs, yes, the film is inferior to that film. But if you just look at Hannibal at its own, it's actually a pretty good movie. And what I really love about Hannibal is that it focuses on Hannibal Lecter more than in Silence of the Lambs. This is really Hannibal, his movie, hence the title Hannibal, and you expect Hannibal. But Anthony Hopkins, once again, perfect as Hannibal Lecter. Really love spending time with Hannibal Lecter, even he is a crazy psychopath, but a brilliant psychopath in Italy, and he's trying to live a normal life as this genius basically. And then the FBI is trying to find him. One of the FBI agents is Clarice Sterling, this time played by Julianne Moore, who also does a good job as Clarice. And the hunt of the FBI on Hannibal is also very interesting, and the two merges perfectly together. And there is a disturbing scene in this movie that is, that will really stick with you. It's pretty hard to get out of your head, but in general, Hannibal, it's a perfect movie. At number 4, we have Prometheus. And I really love Prometheus. And I agree, Prometheus has its flaws, has its things that are not really logic story-wise. There's not really a lot of xenomorphs, because this is a prequel to Alien. Ridley Scott returns to the world that made him famous, the world of Alien. And he decided to make a movie that takes place before the movie Alien. That's very interesting. But he does not really specifically focus on xenomorphs. No, he wants to do something new. He wants to focus on creation, and therefore he brings these interesting ideas, bit thought-provoking. It tries to be an intelligent movie, and for the most part it succeeds in that. And also an interesting character with Elizabeth Shaw. She has a very interesting scene where she operates herself. That's also a scene that will stick with you. But I love Prometheus as this sci-fi spectacle. At number 3, we have another sci-fi spectacle, and that's Blade Runner. I didn't like it the first time, but I've seen it a couple of times now, and it's get better every time I watch it. And Blade Runner is this amazing sci-fi movie. It gives a view of this very depressing future with robots, replicas, and hunting down replicas. But what really makes this movie work for me is the character of Rutger Hauer, the villain of this film, and especially the speech that he gave at the end. That's one of the best written things in movie history, in my opinion. But this is really a fascinating sci-fi movie. At number 2, we have the first movie I saw by Ridley Scott. I was still very young at this time, but I was already really loving this movie because of all the action. And that's Black Hawk Down. This is one of my favorite war movies of all time, certainly top 5. And what I really love about this movie, when I was younger, I really loved the action-packed element of this film, because there was a lot of action, war action. It's a brutal movie, it's a cruel movie. But now I really like this movie for its survival aspect. It's really about these troops. They are in Somalia. They are getting attacked, and it's all about trying to get to a safer space to survive. And that's what I really love about Black Hawk Down. So maybe not always the most easiest watch, of the most rewatchable movie, but for what it is, I really love it. This is definitely one of my favorite Ridley Scott movies. But my favorite Ridley Scott movie of all time, probably most people's favorite, is Alien. It is his second movie and already he nailed perfection. Alien, basically a simple story, but everything is just executed to perfection. It's also about survival of these space workers trying to survive this violent extraterrestrial on their spaceship, and it's just a brilliant movie. I love Alien. It's a classic. Everyone is still talking about Alien to this day, and for good reason, because Alien is one of the most perfect movies ever made it. And it's my favorite Ridley Scott movie. So guys, this was my top 10 favorite Ridley Scott movies. I hope you liked my ranking. Always be free to give your favorite Ridley Scott movies in the comments below. Maybe you have a surprising title, would love to know that. And if you want to see more rankings or top 10s of me in the future, always be free to subscribe to my channel. Until the next time.